With all due respect to Mr. Picard.
All right, we are back. All right. Now begins the final exam review. Now, the question that's currently on the table is how many questions are on the exam? Remember, this is cumulative. It covers everything from lecture 1 to lecture 13, which we just finished. There are 45 questions on this exam because it needs to cover all 13 lectures. So it is the longest one by far, but it's the final, so that kind of makes sense. You still get 500 minutes to take it. However, based upon how things went for a few people in exam 2, I feel like I need to strongly emphasize you cannot save it and come back later. Okay? It doesn't do that. It will submit after 500 minutes, no matter what. Okay? I know that happened for a couple of people because I went in to grade a few and like the last half of the exams were empty, right? So if that's the case, then you forgot these instructions that I gave. Please make sure that you give yourself enough time to complete it all in one sitting. Now, in 500 minutes and 45 questions, I mean, that's more than 10 minutes a question, guys, right? So, I mean, that should be plenty of time. If you need to get up and get a snack or a drink or something, that's fine. Just don't go fall asleep and expect to come back the next day. It's not going to happen. All right? Okay, what else? It is a mix of all the usual suspects. Short answer, multiple choice, true or false, ordering, matching. I will not tell you how many are short answer, but just expect there to be a healthy dose of them. That's all I got as far as information on it, I think. It will be due no later than this Thursday, the 6th at midnight, because this Friday, the 7th, is my big grading day. Okay? It's when I'm going to be doing all the grading. Pray for me. Bless you. Any questions about the logistics of the exam? No? Okay. Well, let's start asking content questions then. None of my online students sent me any questions for this exam review, so my only assumption I can make is that they are supremely confident in their ability to complete it. I never put the exact same question, but I may very well talk about the exact same concepts in a slightly different context. So I may have asked you to tell me about the sedimentary component of the rock cycle in a former lecture or in a former exam. And I may ask you to tell me about the entirety of the rock cycle in the final. All right? That's basically taking the 3 different types of rocks and how they're formed and adding it all together, isn't it? So I absolutely do reference things that you've been tested on in the past, but I never repeat the exact same question. What else?
Is there like a specific part, like PowerPoint thing, lecture that we should focus on studying?
Yes. Okay. So the question is there a particular lecture you should focus on studying? And to that, I'll remind you, this is cumulative. So you should study lectures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and you hate me now.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so a better question for you then would be, which lectures do you feel like you were weakest on? And that might be a good emphasis. All of them? No. No. There are a couple that you probably feel less confident in than the others. I would say study those more. Yeah. Well, good. I'd say. Yeah.
What is a uniformitarianism?
The principle of uniformitarianism says that any geological, excuse me, blah, blah, blah. I was about to give you the definition of a mineral. All physical, chemical, and biological processes that occur today have also happened in the geologic past. Now that is the one, like the quotable one. That's the word for word of it. But then I obviously have added to it in the context of what I've been teaching you, right? Where it's also applicable to the geological future. And do you remember the other part? Any physical, chemical, or biological law that operates today has also operated in the geologic past and is true in the future and is true everywhere else, right? Yeah. All other situations like our own with our planet, they're going to be operating under the exact same principles. Physics is physics. Science is all about the truth of the universe. And there are plenty of people who insist that truth is dependent upon what they think for themselves. I won't comment on that, but I will say that the truth of the universe is its own thing, regardless of what people think of it. Okay. I have a question for you guys. It might help. I'll just ask you guys some questions. How's that sound? Green enchiladas, red enchiladas? Green? Really? No I heard one red. Was that you? No, you said red? Wow. So many people like green enchiladas. Why green over red?
It tastes green. It's usually like it has like a taint.
You can't like what, Alyssa? Any enchiladas?
No, I've tried so many places. I don't like
I
it.
find the green enchiladas taste less like Tex-Mex.
I see. So yeah, green enchiladas are definitely more mild, for sure. Red enchiladas tend to be a little spicier. I find myself less caring about what the sauce is and more about what meat is in it, right? Beef or chicken? Chicken? Really? I'm more of a beef enchilada guy. Although I find more beef enchiladas have red sauce and more chicken enchiladas have green sauce. I kind of like the idea of a green beef enchilada. No, Jose's like, absolutely not. Okay. That was my question to you. Now you got to give a question to me. That's how this works. It's quid pro quo here. It's give and take. You got to give me something now. Okay. Well, I was talking about a question for the exam, but red tamales. I like the red tamales. Yeah. You like the green tamales? Okay. Marquez he likes the green sauce. Okay, geological related question for the exam. Also, don't forget to post all of your lecture notes. It would suck to make it all the way through to the end, get your final grade, get a grade you don't like, and then realize I missed out on those 50 points by not posting all of my notes. Don't be that guy or gal, right? It's 50 points on your lowest exam, brother. Yeah, ooh, you don't want to miss out on that. Your lowest exam, like if you get like a B, a C, and a B and a B, all of a sudden I throw 50 points on that C and you got a B and A and a B and a B, right? You don't want to miss out on that. I'm serious about good note-taking skills. I've encouraged you guys to take strong notes this entire time. It is supremely important to your learning in this class and in every other class and in life in general. That's why I'm putting so many points on encouraging you to do it.
Would those points go on to the final?
They definitely can if it's your lowest exam score. Now, what I don't want you to do is be like, okay, I've answered it. The exam is worth 200 points, so I only need to answer 75% of the exam because the extra credit will go on it and make up the last bit. Don't do that. No. Not only is it super transparent, but it's not going to help your grade in the long run. Extra credit should be extra. Credit should be credit. Okay, what else? Are you putting hydrochloric acid on her hat?
No,
It'll dissolve it.
no.
Okay. I'm not doing that. See it start to smoke. It wouldn't start to smoke. No. A good idea might be to go back and review your notes from the first 2 weeks of the lecture, since it's been the longest since we talked about all that.
Can you predict landslides?
Prediction is a tricky word. Prediction implies, I don't know, to me at least, it implies some sort of mystical quality. Like, I predict that you will be hit by a car in, 4 days. That sort of thing, right? That's like staring into your crystal ball sort of stuff. Yeah, I know. That's the point. Like, there's absolutely no way I could say that, right? Prediction kind of falls into that category. Forecasting is maybe a more appropriate word here. When you forecast the weather, when you forecast an earthquake, you forecast a landslide, that's you taking actual data and drawing a conclusion from it to the best of your ability. That's what a forecast is. That's the terminology we would prefer to use in science rather than prediction, right? Does that make sense? The difference between those? Okay. Yeah.
What is the water table?
The water table is the surface underneath, the ground, beneath which all water is inundated, superhydrated. What's the word I'm looking for? Soaking? Like, what do you call that? Why is that? It's just wet. It's just full of water.
Saturated?
Saturated is the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Okay. It is the point underground beneath which all rock is saturated. So you drill your well down below that so that you can pull water up. Yep. It's also the depth at which all rivers and lakes are trying to reach to sit there. Actually, if there is a lake, it's already at the water table typically. Rivers are flowing down, carving their way through the rock, and then depositing water in a location at the water table, which usually turns out to be a lake.
It's okay though. I mean,
You said there will be a knowledge on.
There will not be. No, I'm not testing you on topographic maps on this exam. That's the only content in this class that I will tell you is not on the exam. I also won't be asking you to identify any minerals or rocks on this exam. That was the lab exam. That's passed, assuming that you've taken it, right? However, I do refer the right reserve the right, I should say, to give you characteristics of a mineral or rock and ask you to interpret something about it using those characteristics. Because that is definitely something that we talked about in lecture. I'm not setting you up for failure, girl. No, I've given you all the tools you need. Now, if you would like more help to succeed, I have always been willing to have tutoring sessions. That's open today. That's open tomorrow. That's open on Thursday. All the way up until I close the class.
Which is Friday, right? Friday morning?
It will be Thursday at midnight. Have everything in by Thursday at midnight, because I come in first thing Friday morning, and I'm going to be calculating all of the final exams, or all of the final scores total. Everything. You won't even be able to open the class again until I've already submitted your final grade to the transcript people. Yeah. So whatever it is by then, whatever you have turned in, that's what it's going to be. Wait, what?
I said I already studied all weekend for the last exam too. Like before I took the test,
Mm-hmm.
I looked through all like the PowerPoints for that test.
Good.
But now I have to do that again with all of these.
Yeah, I know. 8-week. For those of you who only have Odessa College as your college experience, 8-week classes are not typical. I want you to know that. OCU was one of the first colleges to do it. There's still only maybe 20 or 30 around the entire nation that do it. Everywhere else, this would be a 16-week class. You wouldn't have, an exam every other week. You would have an exam once a month, right? The reason why OC adopted 8-week classes, I believe it was maybe like 10 years ago, they went to the 8-week program. The reason why is because OC's emphasis has always been serving as many people in the community as they can, as quickly as they can. So by giving you 8-week courses instead of 16, we effectively reduce the amount of time that it takes for you to graduate by almost a year. I think the math comes out to it. And it makes the classes cheaper, which means that financial assistance can go a little further. And it doesn't lock you into as long as a commitment. So if you want to take a spring 1 class, but you can't take a spring 2, you're not locked in. All of these advantages, but it is atypical. I have to teach you everything that every other university and college has 16 weeks to teach you in half the time. Which wasn't easy for me to make a class that can do that, by the way. But it's also not easy on you, and I acknowledge that. And I'm sorry that things just feel like boom, 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 one thing after another. I wish there was a way I could alleviate that. And I've done what I can, but if I remove any more from the class, you are not getting the same education that you would get anywhere else. And I can't in good conscience do that. So yeah, it's been tough, and I know it has, and I'm sorry that it has been. Just imagine taking this in the summer. It's a 4-week class. We meet every day for 6 hours. Yeah, Monday through Thursday.
But they paid for the class. Because that at the end of the day wasn't just like a fucking. Because you're like, oh no, you're behind.
Any of you guys have smartwatches? Every now and then, like if I sit for a little bit and then I stand up, my smartwatch will say, "Congratulations, you got moving." And I'm like, "Don't patronize me, watch."
Mine used to be like, you've climbed this amount of stairs. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Thank you. I don't remember climbing any stairs.
And I just remember going up those stairs once.
Right. Or I'll be like on the bike machine. Like this morning, I'll be on the bike machine at the gym, and it'll say, "You have swum 1.5 miles." And I'm like, "Sure, watch.
I
Sure."
did, thank you. Yes, they're a little wonky sometimes.
All right. What else? Concerns. What concerns do you have? Where do you feel the weakest in this material? Maybe it was something that I didn't spend as much time on as you wanted. Maybe it's something that you're genuinely curious about, or something that you're worried that you wouldn't be able to answer a question for on the exam.
I would say
Chemical bonds. We talked about 3 types of bonds: covalent bonds, ionic bonds, and metallic bonds. In an ionic bond, 2 atoms are drawn to each other because they have opposite charges and need to satisfy each other's valence shell. Okay, remember the valence shell being the outermost electron shell that needs 8 electrons to be happy, to be stable. So the example I gave was chlorine and sodium, right? Chlorine having how many valent electrons? Where's chlorine on our periodic table of elements? Which column is it in, I should say? Hmm?
I see it.
Good. Which column is it in? Ignoring those lower ones, which are different. There are 8 major columns there. So which column is it in? It's in 7, which means it has how many valent electrons? 7. Sodium. Where's sodium? 1. So sodium has 1 electron in its valence shell and has a positive charge, net positive charge. Chlorine is in column 7, has 7 valence electrons, has a net negative charge. They are drawn to each other because they have opposite charges, just like magnets. They satisfy each other's valence shells by sharing those 8 electrons. They make a bond, an ionic bond. In a covalent bond, the simplest example of this is 2 hydrogen atoms, each of which have 1 valent electron drawn towards each other because those valence electrons are equally drawn by both nuclei. And so what you have are 2 hydrogen nuclei which share the same 2 valent electrons. Okay, so they are sharing those 2 versus when the sodium simply gave its valence electron to chlorine and is there for the ride. That is a covalent bond. And then in a metallic bond, all electrons are shared equally between all of the atoms in that substance, which is why metals make for great conductors. Gold will simply allow all electrons to pass through it because of the nature of the metallic bond.
Did you say all electrons share themselves?
In the metallic bond? Yeah. When all of the atoms in a substance are the same metal, electrons are shared freely between those atoms. Two astronomers spent 24 hours watching the moon circle around the Earth. But then they got tired, so they called it a day.
What about the ones that watch the sun?
The ones that watch the sun are blind. I did not see the planet alignment. It's still kind of there, I think. Every time there's a planetary alignment like that, though, I remember Hercules. You remember the old Hercules, the Disney one? Yeah. Honey, you mean Honkules. You guys okay over there? Okay. All right. Well, are there any other questions? I'll leave this open for the next 3 minutes, and if I don't get any more questions in 3 minutes, then I'll just end the recording. Yeah.
What are the different grades of
The different grades of metamorphism and how you can tell the difference between them. So we give the different grades of metamorphism kind of based upon the nature of the foliation that results from them, or the nature of the rocks that come from them. So low-grade metamorphism in a sedimentary rock, in a non-differential stress environment, you'll get something like, let's use shale as our example here. It helps to have just one example for a rock. So shale. With low-grade metamorphism, you metamorphose shale a little bit, you're going to get a baked mudstone like hornfels. In a differential stress environment, you will get slate because foliation is going to occur. That's a low-grade metamorphism. If I increase the grade of that metamorphism of that slate a little bit more, that slate will become phyllite. Then if I do it even more to, say, a mid-grade sort of metamorphism level, I would get schist. Then if I increase that even more to, say, a high-grade metamorphism, I'll end up with a gneiss. So I can have the same rock become different subsequent metamorphic rocks based upon the intensity of the metamorphism that they experience.
Is it because he's taller? Because I'm there.
What? It's not.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I do describe income.
You're supposed to. You're supposed to.
Hello.
You're supposed to.
I
You're only supposed to. Use your
was gonna say Can we see what this? Apparently.
Watch out your back. You're gonna hurt yourself. Your back's gonna hurt.
Looking for questions, Daisy, looking for questions. Me? Oh, oh. That's me. I'm gonna start calling rectangles triangles now. Triangle circles. I love circles. Oh, God. What a weirdo right here. I don't know. You should have went all the way with me. I want to see that. No. Oh, it hurt. I was just like, wait. No, this is what it is. Man, if it's an edit, I'm gonna cry. Oh, no, we're good. You're not scared.
Yes, it is.
But if no one votes in, the world is going to go.
That's why I was going for
That's fair. That's fair. Oh, the little dog. Little one.
All right. One more call for questions. Any final comments that you would like to leave? Huh? It is hard. It is hard. About where on the Mohs scale would you put this class? No, I'm sorry. A 12? Oh man, it only goes to 10. I saw a comic strip a while back. This rock star goes up to an engineer and says, "Hey, I want to pay you to take my speakers up to 11." And the engineer is like, "Well, they physically can't go past a certain point. Like, I'd have to build you a much larger speaker to have larger things." And like, no, I just want you to make this one louder. Take it to 11. And then the engineer is just like, looks at this guy, and you can tell he's just thinking, what an idiot, right? And then he's like, all right, sure. So then he just like goes up to the guy's speaker and he puts a new dial on it that goes 1 through 11. He doesn't change anything but the dial. So that the rock star just turns it up to 11. He's like, yeah, this is way better. He gets paid like $5,000. And they're like, that is a smart engineer. Yeah. Yes.
you could like take course on your own set amount of weeks, how long would it?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's a good question. If I could make this course the ideal amount of time, I think probably 12 weeks would be ideal. That would give you all an extra week with every lab. That would let me add a few more lectures. It wouldn't feel as rushed as this one. The exams wouldn't be 1 week after the other right here at the end. But 16 weeks, I'm not gonna lie, when I took classes like this over 16 weeks, sometimes they felt like they dragged. And you need to have this careful balance of either if your class takes too long or if it's too short. Let's start with that. If your class is too short, everyone feels rushed and stressed out all the time, right? If it takes too long, then your students lose track of due dates. They start focusing on other things. All of a sudden, an assignment will be due and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I haven't even thought about this class in a week, right? So you have that opposite problem. So I think 12 weeks would probably be my ideal if I had my way.
Think that they would allow that?
Here? No. OC is married to the 8-week thing. There's a few classes that still do it in 16 weeks out of necessity or out of national certification expectations. Like you can't really change the way that they do nursing here, for example, right? That's a national certification that you have to be, qualified for. But things like geology, as long as I'm teaching the same content and you all pass an evaluation, which is, your final, which puts you on the same level, which certifies you are on the same level as everyone else. I could teach it in 1 week as far as they cared, right? Yeah.
That's funny. I'm assuming.
Good question. Interesting question. No one's ever asked me that before.
So my brother used to be getting like, he has 16
You?
courses, and I was like, that must be so nice. You lose track of time.
Yeah, plenty of time, but yeah, you can lose track of it. Like my PhD classes, those are 16 weeks. And I had a situation last week, like what I just talked about, where I got so just like involved in grading everything for the classes I'm teaching here and a few of the projects I've got going on. I completely forgot that I had an assignment for that class due until the day before it was due. And it was this long mapping project. I had to stay here until really late to get it done, right? So that's the other danger of taking a class that maybe is over too long a period of time. You want to stay just stressed enough that you're motivated, I guess, is that balance, right? Not so much that you're just like falling on the ground in a nervous breakdown, but just stressed enough that you're motivated to get things done when they need to get done. All right. Well, before I end this recording, I just want to take a minute and thank you all for taking my class. I've had a good time with everyone. We've had some laughs. We've learned a lot of really cool stuff. You've even shared some things with me, caused me to look into some things that I maybe didn't know very well or at all before. Thank you for your involvement. Thank you for your participation. This goes to my online students as well. Thank you for participating on GoReact and helping each other out. I've appreciated seeing all of the group work that you all do together and the good feelings and the good times. So thank you for taking my class. Yay.